Get ready to witness one of the most audacious insurance fraud attempts in Judge Judy's 25-year career. Karen Whitmore walked into the courtroom limping, wearing a spotless neck brace, leaning heavily on a wooden cane, and twisting her face into exaggerated pain as she prepared to sue her former employer for $50,000 in medical damages from a workplace injury. She believed every detail of her act was flawless. She had doctor's notes from 3 separate physicians, prescriptions for strong painkillers, physical therapy attendance sheets, and a performance of suffering convincing enough to make Hollywood jealous. Karen was sure she was about to secure the biggest payout of her life from a small business owner who couldn't afford to fight back. What she didn't know was that Judge Judy had spent the previous night preparing something that would expose her lies in the most humiliating way possible, a courtroom moment so devastating it would be shared over 40 million times across social media. In the back row sat a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair, dressed in an expensive suit, a leather medical bag at his feet, and a thick folder of documents on his lap. Judge Judy had personally invited him. No one in the courtroom knew who he was or why he was there. When Judge Judy revealed his identity and the evidence he carried, Karen's entire scheme collapsed spectacularly, creating the most viral insurance fraud takedown in internet history. Her transformation from confident scammer to exposed criminal happened in minutes, captured in crystal clear high definition for millions to witness. What made the moment even more unbelievably proved Judge Judy operates on a completely different level from any other television judge was the true extent of Karen's deception. Karen wasn't merely faking an injury for insurance money. She had created an entire criminal operation: fake medical records, doctor shopping between 3 physicians who didn't know about each other, forged documents, carefully staged social media posts to reinforce her claims, and a web of lies so intricate that even her own lawyer didn't know the full story. This wasn't a desperate mistake. It was a calculated scheme by someone who had turned insurance fraud into a profitable side business, harming innocent people and destroying livelihoods without a moment of remorse. Judge Judy's strategy to expose her was brilliantly orchestrated, perfectly timed, and completely devastating, an instant masterclass in destroying a liar using only facts, preparation, and the kind of judicial intelligence shaped by confronting 20,000 fraudsters over a quarter-century career. Picture the moment: Karen Whitmore, a 47-year-old office manager who believed she had designed the perfect get-rich-quick plan, walking into America's toughest courtroom with arrogant confidence after successfully fooling doctors, insurance adjusters, investigators, and her coworkers for 8 months. She had practiced her limp in the mirror for weeks until it appeared completely natural. She had researched which pain medications to mention to sound believable. She genuinely thought she was untouchable. She had studied successful workplace injury lawsuits online and joined internet forums where scammers exchanged tips on how to beat the system. Karen walked into the building completely certain she was about to walk out $50,000 richer, convinced that a daytime television judge would be just another authority figure she could manipulate with tears and fabricated pain. She had no idea she was about to face a woman who had seen every variation of her scam hundreds of times, a legal mind that had already identified 12 lies in Karen's opening paperwork alone, and a judge who had spent the night constructing a trap she would never escape. Karen Whitmore wasn't born a criminal, but by 47 she had perfected insurance fraud into a steady income source. This was far from her first attempt at fake injuries and fabricated claims meant to extract money from honest people and businesses. At 32, she sued a local grocery store for a slip-and-fall incident that security footage proved never happened. But the store's insurance company still paid her $15,000 to avoid a legal battle. That effortless payout taught her exactly how the system functioned. At 38, she claimed severe whiplash from a minor parking lot fender bender, collecting $8,000 from the other driver's insurance, despite the fact that she had been the one who rear-ended them. Through experiences like these, she learned that insurance companies often preferred quiet settlements to costly investigations. Even when fraud was suspected, what comes next, she believed, would be her biggest win yet. She thought she was about to pull off another lucrative scam, one that would prove she could outsmart anyone, even Judge Judy. But what she didn't know was that this case would become the complete and total downfall of one of the most brazen insurance fraud attempts ever caught on camera. This wasn't just a dispute about money. It became a demonstration of why no one should ever try to deceive America's toughest judge, and why truth, preparation, and intelligence always overpower lies and manipulation. The 3 minutes that changed everything were approaching. And what Karen thought she could get away with, right in front of a judge who had already set a flawless trap, was something she never imagined would blow up in her face. The case that brought Karen to Judge Judy's courtroom represented her most ambitious and intricate culmination of everything she had learned from years of manipulating the insurance system. She claimed she had severely injured her neck, back, and shoulder while lifting a simple box of office supplies at Henderson accounting firm, where she had been the office manager for 6 years. According to the carefully prepared lawsuit she filed, this ordinary 15-pound box of printer paper and folders had caused catastrophic spinal damage requiring ongoing physical therapy, intensive pain management with controlled substances, and a permanent disability that would prevent her from ever working again. She was suing her former employer, Richard Henderson, the 62-year-old owner of the small family-run accounting firm, for $50,000 in damages covering medical bills, lost wages, future treatment costs, and compensation for what she described in her paperwork as unbearable, life-ruining pain and suffering. What set this case apart from her previous fraud attempts was the incredible level of detail and preparation she invested in making her lies appear unbreakable. She had managed to obtain medical documentation from 3 completely different doctors, none of whom knew the others existed, each one diagnosing various elements of her alleged injuries. She had prescription records showing she was taking strong opioid pain medications, muscle relaxers, and anti-inflammatory drugs. She had 8 months of physical therapy attendance logs proving she hadn't missed a single appointment. She even filmed video testimony demonstrating her supposed inability to perform simple daily tasks, like reaching up to get a coffee mug from a cabinet or bending down to tie her shoes. Karen spent countless hours studying other successful workplace injury cases, joined online forums where insurance scammers shared detailed strategies, read medical textbooks to learn proper terminology, and built what she believed was a completely unbreakable case that no one could ever disprove. Meanwhile, Richard Henderson sat in the defendant's chair looking utterly drained, like a man who had aged 10 years and 8 months of legal turmoil. The small accounting business he had spent 35 years building through honest work and dedication was being slowly destroyed by Karen's lawsuit and the chaos it caused. His business insurance premiums had tripled overnight after the claim was filed, forcing him to use his retirement savings just to keep the doors open. 2 of his longest-serving employees, who had been with him for over 15 years, quit because they couldn't tolerate the toxic atmosphere the lawsuit created. Richard was staring down the threat of bankruptcy if he lost the case, not only because of the $50,000 judgment, but also the soaring insurance costs and lost clients that accompany an active workplace injury claim. Richard had trusted Karen for 6 years. He had given her raises, Christmas bonuses, treated her like part of the family, and even invited her to his daughter's wedding. Now she was trying to destroy everything he had spent his entire life building through lies and manipulation, leaving him feeling powerless. The Judge Judy courtroom was packed. That Tuesday morning with the usual mix of retirees and daytime TV fans, expecting another ordinary small claims case. The production crew had their cameras set up in the usual places. The bailiff stood near the bench, and Judge Judy reviewed her case notes one last time before beginning. But something about this morning was different, something sharp-eyed audience members might have noticed. Sitting quietly in the back row was an unlisted guest, a distinguished man in his 60s with meticulously groomed silver hair, wearing an expensive tailored suit and resting a leather medical bag at his feet. A thick manila folder lay on his lap, and he kept his eyes fixed on the plaintiff's table where Karen would soon be seated. No one in the courtroom knew who this mysterious man was, why Judge Judy had requested his presence, or what role he would play in the devastating events about to unfold. Karen's entrance into the courtroom was a performance that could have earned her a key theatrical award for commitment to character. She hobbled slowly through the double doors, her neck brace so spotless and white it looked freshly purchased, her wooden cane tapping dramatically against the floor with every carefully measured, painful step. She visibly winced each time she moved, as though every breath brought unbearable agony requiring tremendous courage to endure. When she finally lowered herself into the plaintiff's chair, she did it with exaggerated slowness, adjusting her neck brace with trembling fingers and releasing soft, pained moans that the courtroom microphones captured perfectly for the millions of viewers who would eventually see the footage. She wore conservative professional clothing meant to project honesty and respectability, someone who appeared far too upright to ever lie, someone who maintained pride in her appearance despite her supposed suffering, someone the audience would naturally feel sympathy for. And trust Judge Judy watched the entire performance with the calm detachment of a scientist, studying a curious specimen under a microscope. Her seasoned eyes, sharpened by 25 years on the bench and thousands of fraud cases, took in every detail with expert precision. She noticed the pristine neck brace with no signs of the wear that 8 months of daily use would create. She observed the perfectly positioned cane, angled just so for maximum visibility to the cameras. She noted the dramatic timing of each wince and moan, noticing how they occurred at moments of peak theatrical effect rather than in response to real movement or pain. Judge Judy opened the proceedings with her usual directness, her voice slicing through the room like a surgeon making the first clean incision. "Ms. Whitmore, you're suing Mr. Henderson for $50,000, claiming you sustained serious injuries while lifting a box at work. Tell me exactly what happened." It was an extremely simple question, one she had asked thousands of times throughout her long career, delivered in a tone that sounded almost casual and conversational. Experienced Judge Judy viewers, those who had watched her take apart liars for years, would have immediately recognized the subtle edge in her voice. The slight narrowing of her eyes signaled that she had already spotted something suspicious and was now giving Karen just enough rope to expose herself. Through her own words, Karen began her rehearsed testimony with the confidence of someone who had practiced every line, every pause, every emotional shift in front of her bathroom mirror countless times. Her voice was carefully controlled to sound both brave and resilient despite the pain, projecting the image of a victim refusing to be defeated. "Your Honor, on March 15th, I was asked to lift a heavy box of supplies from the storage room. The moment I picked it up, I felt something snap in my neck and back. The pain was absolutely excruciating, like anything I had ever experienced in my entire life." She paused for dramatic impact, lifting a trembling hand to her neck brace as if reliving the trauma. "I've been in constant agony every single day since then. I can barely function as a normal human being. Simple everyday tasks that people take for granted, like getting dressed in the morning or cooking dinner for my family, leave me in tears from the unbearable pain." Judge Judy's eyebrows rose slightly, forming the familiar arch that regular viewers recognized as the first warning sign that she had already identified. Something in the testimony that didn't make sense. Ms. Whitmore. Judge Judy interrupted with pinpoint precision. Her tone remained professional and calm, but now held an edge sharp enough to cut through steel. You said the box was heavy. Exactly how much did it weigh? Karen hesitated for the briefest moment, a tiny pause almost anyone else would have missed, but one that Judge Judy's trained eye caught instantly. Like a shark sensing a single drop of blood in the water, it must have been at least 40 or 50 pounds. Your Honor, Karen said, it was extremely heavy, far too heavy for someone my size to lift safely, without proper equipment or assistance. What Karen didn't realize, what she couldn't have known because she was so absorbed in her performance and so confident in her lies, was that Judge Judy had already reviewed the workplace inventory records, examined security footage from multiple angles, and even had the specific box measured and weighed by an independent investigator. The box weighed exactly 15 pounds. And security cameras Karen had apparently forgotten existed showed her lifting identical boxes multiple times, both before and after the alleged injury date, with no sign of struggle, discomfort, or hesitation. But Judge Judy wasn't ready to reveal this devastating information yet. She was a master at constructing a case brick by brick, allowing defendants to bury themselves deeper with each exaggerated claim, each obvious lie, each theatrical flourish. She continued her calm, methodical questioning, asking about Karen's medical treatment with a patience that made dishonest plaintiffs believe they were succeeding. This was the moment. Karen escalated her performance, mistaking Judge Judy's composure for acceptance. Your Honor, I've had to see 3 different specialists just to manage this injury. Karen began. My primary care physician, Dr. Morrison, immediately diagnosed severe cervical strain and referred me to specialists. Then I saw Dr. Patterson, one of the top spinal experts in the state, and he confirmed degenerative disc damage that will require years of treatment. And Dr. Chen, my pain management doctor, has had to prescribe multiple powerful medications because the pain is so relentless that I can't sleep, can't work, can't live any kind of normal life. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair with an expression seasoned viewers recognized as an extremely dangerous sign for whoever was speaking. 3 doctors, she repeated slowly, letting the words hang in the air like an accusation. That's quite thorough medical care. And all 3 of these doctors independently agreed that your injury was specifically caused by lifting this box at your workplace. Karen nodded eagerly, interpreting the question as interest rather than the trap it was. Yes, Your Honor, absolutely. All 3 doctors confirmed without any doubt that this was a workplace injury caused by Mr. Henderson's negligence. They all documented that I'll need ongoing treatment for the rest of my team. My only lipstick, Ruby Kiss. Ruby Kiss, Ruby Kiss. Only Ruby Kiss has the luxurious kiss, has my Ruby Kiss, has the luxure, my life-ic. And my light, my life. My life, and that I'll never be able to return to meaningful employment because of the permanent damage. Then Judge Judy asked the question that made Karen's lawyer shift uneasily in his seat and glanced nervously at his client. Ms. Whitmore, can you demonstrate your range of motion for the court? Please turn your head to the left as far as you comfortably can. Karen put on an elaborate display of attempting to turn her head, stopping after barely an inch of movement. Her face twisted into such exaggerated agony that it resembled something from an old silent movie. I can't, Your Honor. The pain is far too severe. Any movement beyond this tiny range causes absolutely unbearable suffering that brings tears to my eyes. Before the devastating moment that would destroy Karen's entire fraud, The narration urged viewers to respond encouraging likes from those who believed people who fake injuries should be exposed, and comments from anyone expecting Judge Judy to deliver the most satisfying takedown of insurance fraud they had ever seen. What was about to happen would prove why deceiving America's toughest judge is a terrible idea, especially when she has already laid the perfect trap. Judge Judy's expression shifted from patient inquiry to predatory satisfaction, a subtle but unmistakable transformation that made the entire courtroom seem to pause, anticipating what was coming next. Ms. Whitmore, Judge Judy continued, "Before we go any further with your testimony, I'd like to introduce someone who has been observing your performance today with great professional interest." She gestured toward the distinguished man seated quietly in the back row, the mysterious visitor no one had been able to identify. "This is Dr. Robert Martinez, Chief of Orthopedic Medicine at St. Mary's Hospital and a nationally certified expert in workplace injury fraud detection. He has been reviewing your case meticulously for the past week, and he has some very interesting observations to share with this court." The color drained from Karen's face like water spiraling down a drain, beginning with a faint paleness and quickly shifting to an ashy gray that made her look genuinely unwell. Her hand flew to her neck brace, adjusting it nervously in a movement that exposed how shaken she suddenly was. "Your Honor, I don't understand why you would need to bring in someone else when I have documentation from 3 qualified physicians who have already—" Judge Judy cut her off with the sharpness of a blade slicing through rope. "You'll understand everything in just a moment, Ms. Whitmore. Dr. Martinez, please share your findings with the court." Dr. Martinez rose and walked toward the front of the courtroom with the calm, steady authority of someone who had testified in hundreds of fraud cases and fully understood the impact of the evidence he was about to present. "Your Honor," he began, "I have conducted a comprehensive review of Ms. Whitmore's medical records, performed an independent evaluation of her claimed injuries using established diagnostic criteria, observed her behavior throughout this entire proceeding, and consulted with the physicians she asserts treated her. I can state with absolute medical certainty that her claimed injuries are entirely inconsistent with the physical abilities she has repeatedly demonstrated." Karen's voice rose sharply, taking on a desperate, shrill tone completely unlike her earlier calm and rehearsed performance. "That's absolutely not true. I didn't do anything that contradicts my injury. This is completely unfair and prejudiced." Karen protested, her voice climbing into a sharp, desperate pitch. But Dr. Martinez continued speaking with the steady, methodical precision of a surgeon making careful incisions. "First," he said, "Ms. Whitmore claims severe cervical strain that prevents her from rotating her head more than a few degrees in any direction. However, when she entered this courtroom approximately 30 minutes ago, I personally observed her turn her head about 45 degrees to the left to check the wall clock, and again nearly 50 degrees to the right when the bailiff came in through the side door. Both movements showed full range of motion with no visible discomfort, no hesitation, and no protective guarding. None of the signs expected in someone with a genuine cervical injury." The courtroom erupted with gasps and murmurs, as the audience realized they had just witnessed an elaborate fraud unfolding right before their eyes. Karen's lawyer frantically flipped through paperwork, clearly recognizing that his client had lied to him about crucial details of the case. Judge Judy raised her hand to quiet the room, and Dr. Martinez pressed on, dismantling Karen's story piece by piece. "Second," he continued, "her prescription records show a concerning pattern of doctor shopping. She obtained pain medications from 3 separate physicians without informing any of them about the others. This is illegal and is a strong indicator of substance abuse or fraudulent behavior rather than legitimate pain management. The MRI report she submitted which I had reviewed independently by 2 radiologists, reveal nothing beyond normal age-related wear and tear, typical of a healthy 47-year-old woman. There is absolutely no evidence of acute injury, no disc herniation, no nerve compression, none of the serious conditions she claims are ruining her life. But Dr. Martinez was not finished. What came next delivered the final blow to Karen's fraud. And finally, "Your Honor," he said, "I reviewed Ms. Whitmore's public social media accounts, which paint a very different picture from the one she is presenting here today." He held up his phone, and courtroom staff projected the images onto the large screen for everyone to see. These photos were posted during the exact time period in which she claims to have been severely disabled and barely able to function. He explained, "Here she is at a hot yoga class just 3 weeks ago, performing advanced poses requiring significant neck and back flexibility. Here she is at an indoor trampoline park with her children 2 months ago, jumping and even doing flips, activities impossible for someone with the spinal injuries she alleges. And here she is lifting her daughter, who she states online weighs roughly 45 pounds, 3 times heavier than the box she claims permanently disabled her." Karen's carefully crafted performance collapsed instantly, like a house of cards in a hurricane. The neck brace that moments earlier had seemed medically essential now looked absurd and obviously fake. The cane she had leaned on so dramatically was completely forgotten. Left standing uselessly against her chair, her hands began trembling uncontrollably, and her carefully applied makeup started to smudge as sweat mixed with tears of panic and humiliation. "Your Honor, please," she pleaded. "Those photos are completely out of context. I was trying so hard to maintain some sense of normalcy for my children despite my suffering. The pain medications let me push through for short periods, and I paid for those moments with days of agony afterward." Judge Judy's voice sliced through Karen's excuses like a knife through butter, cold, final, and merciless. "Ms. Whitmore, I'm going to stop you right there before you dig yourself into an even deeper hole than the one you're already in. Dr. Martinez, in your professional medical opinion, based on all the evidence you've reviewed and observed, did this woman sustain any legitimate workplace injury from lifting a 15-pound box of office supplies?" The answer came quickly and with devastating force, each word landing like a hammer strike. "No, Your Honor. There is zero medical evidence supporting any of her claims. What we are seeing here is textbook insurance fraud, pure and simply long, with possible prescription drug-seeking behavior and perjury." The judgment that followed was swift and utterly unforgiving. "Ms. Whitmore, you are a fraud and a criminal. You will not receive a single penny from Mr. Henderson. Instead, I am awarding him $15,000 for legal fees, court costs, and the time he has wasted defending himself against your lies. Furthermore, I am formally referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution on charges of insurance fraud, perjury, attempted theft by deception, and fraud upon this court." The gavel came down with a crack that sounded like a gunshot, final, absolute, and impossible to argue with. The transformation in Karen was immediate and devastating. The woman who had hobbled into the courtroom with a cane and neck brace now sat completely upright, her dramatic ailments forgotten in the shock of her real emotional collapse. She was sobbing uncontrollably, her carefully crafted deception shattered around her like broken glass. Richard Henderson sank back into his chair in overwhelming relief. 8 months of nightmarish stress dissolving in seconds as tears of gratitude rolled down his lined face. Within hours of the episode airing, the footage exploded across social media. The hashtag fake injury Karen began trending worldwide as millions of outraged viewers shared clips of her yoga poses side by side with her courtroom performance. The moment Dr. Martinez revealed the trampoline park photos became the most replayed segment. accumulating more than 40 million views across TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Combined, legal experts praised Judge Judy's methodical approach to exposing fraud, and the case quickly became required viewing and insurance investigation training programs nationwide. Karen Whitmore's life unraveled entirely in the aftermath. The district attorney filed criminal charges within 2 weeks, and faced with overwhelming evidence, she eventually pleaded guilty to avoid a trial. She received a 3-year prison sentence, 5 years of probation, and was ordered to pay $75,000 in restitution to Richard Henderson and the insurance companies she had defrauded. Her husband filed for divorce. She lost custody of her children, and her professional reputation was destroyed beyond repair. Smash that like button if you believe Judge Judy delivered the justice this fraud deserved. Comment "Fraud exposed" if you think every insurance scammer should see this as a warning. Subscribe for more epic moments where liars get caught and karma delivers perfect justice. Remember, in Judge Judy's courtroom, honesty always wins, and consequences are always real.